Thank you, Shane, for that warm Saskatchewan welcome. And welcome to another episode or slice of the good, the bad, and the orange. Today, I am privileged to have two outstanding real estate professionals. Tiffany Foster, who has been with us for, a couple of years at least, and comes from a very interesting background. She was she worked in Hollywood and in the global news network, making people look beautiful. And Nadine Higgins, who comes to us from Chicago and was a Raiders cheerleader and was on the show Glow. If you're under 30 years old, Google it. And then, of course, we have Dean with us, our resident Shih Tzu, who comes to us via Yuma from the dog pound. So today, what do you guys want to talk about? No, I'm just kidding. We just, we're in this interestingly new marketplace. I sit every night and I read the articles and I listen to the news, and if you thought about it, you might want to not even get out of bed in the morning because it's all, the sky is falling and no one's going to buy real estate and the market is crashing and rates are going to 24%, which is not true. So Tiffany you had a new construction background, and I know there's been some transition from that. What do you think so if you were someone moving here from who knows where, what's your advice on knowing what new construction is all about and used or existing housing is? What's your thoughts on the differences between the two?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't move during the summer if you've never visited Arizona. Just kidding.
Move in July. You'll see the worst.
Right. Yeah. So anyone that's ever been in Phoenix during the summer, it's pretty brutal. So if you're not used to the temps, I would just say stay hydrated. But something great, as soon as I got into real estate, I wanted to pretty much learn the start of a home, like from the ground up, and working in new construction and now in resale or pre-existing homes, it's definitely a difference. So I would say, the biggest differences is just kind of like the expectation. So as far as an agent, the time frame, selling and pre-existing, you know that, it could take someone, you're not going to meet a buyer and they come right in and they're like ready to purchase a home. It takes time. It takes research. You want to, determine if this is the neighborhood that your client really wants. And, different from new home construction, like the average, community will have anywhere from 3 to 5 different builders in one area. And generally the home, the floor plan is exactly the same. So it's a different form of selling. You have to really be engaged and really care about the customer. So I think that's the biggest transition that you kind of learn. And when you work for a company, their bottom line is sell. So you have to build rapport and know your product. And I think that's really helped me now in resale because it's like I look at different aspects. So like when I'm holding an open house, am I going to just walk in and put the signs up and sit? No, I'm going to look around the home and make sure it's looking its best. Maybe the homeowners forgot to clean the windows or whatever. So
flush the toilet
or something, make it smell pleasant. So those are the things.
Especially flush the toilet.
Exactly, flush the toilet and cross out the ones that you don't want anyone to use, because in a new home construction, sometimes people won't know that, and you'll be like, hey, what's that smell? And you'll realize that over the weekend someone used the restroom in a toilet that was not actually working.
Well, and one of the other things I think that is different, when you talk about new construction, as a builder rep, it's kind of one-dimensional, right? You're there to sell that product. That's really it. And we always say, people go, well, I just go to the builder without an agent. But remember, that builder rep isn't going to do dual agency. They're there to represent the builder. Nothing wrong with that. That's their job. But, I think one of the biggest gifts Tiffany has is that since she has been on that side, if I was going to buy a new construction house, I'd want to have someone like Tiffany on my side because she knows how they operate. She knows if there's any room, there's not a lot of room to negotiate. It's not like a new house where let's shoot them an offer. But she also knows maybe where there might be some wiggle or some package or something. And it doesn't cost you anything to have an agent. My understanding is that builders, at least the production builders, which is most of Arizona, pay for real estate commissions out of their marketing budget, not out of the housing budget. So whether you go in and walk in blindly and sign, or whether you have an agent, your price is going to be the same. The only chance you're going to have to negotiate and someone to look through that 98-page contract on your behalf is having representation. So I watched you. One of your first sales was a house that you had sold. The people knew over in Goodyear. Was that?
Sienna Hills.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember
it was a Zoom call, right?
Yes, yes. And I remember you priced it, and I went, wow, that seems like a lot of money. But she knew how to break down the options. So she knew how to now portray the real value of that house compared to others in the neighborhood that maybe a regular agent wouldn't know because they didn't know the pricing sheet, they didn't know all that stuff. And you got this ridiculous number for it. I mean, it was because you knew how to market that. And I think that's one of the gifts you have from being on both sides is you know how they package things. You also know how they bought it. So when you're selling it, you know how to sell it to the next person. Kind of like a new construction package, but also to show the value in that in the resale. So Nadine, you're kind of our star in a different way. I mean, you're a cheerleader. I saw you do splits on the golf course a couple weeks ago. I gasped going, if I was in that position, they would have to call the paramedics. But you just did a cheer, flopped down there, made the putt. The crowd went wild.
No, I asked Tiffany to help me out.
Well, that part didn't show up on the.
I was going to say you did 10 high kicks right after that.
Oh my gosh, you two.
Oh gosh, guys.
You did arms and did high kicks.
Yeah. We were the Rockettes for a minute,
right?
Right. So, I know you've talked many times about how different real estate in Chicago is to here. And yet we deal with so many people coming from Chicago. I mean, they all are fleeing their, $20,000, $30,000 property taxes and come down here. As we talked today at our meeting, if you go to Sun City, you might get $600 property taxes. What's the biggest difference you saw coming from there to here when it comes to how people look at housing, how they look at selling and buying, and the adjustments you've kind of had to make based on that?
Well, my biggest adjustment was the attorney. I mean, when you're when I'm in Chicago and I write an offer, I do that. They have their contingencies. They get an attorney immediately. So there are two of us looking at the contract, and that is a huge help because we're human. We may overlook something. It's a contract and it's binding, and it puts a lot more liability on me here than it did in Chicago.
That's true, although you've got, two very bald brokers who can help you with those things too. But you're right. Yeah. On the other hand, our contracts have been vetted and litigated to death, and so that I think that having contracts that are uniform takes away some of that risk as well, because
they're pretty forthright too. They're easy to understand.
It's fill in the blank. Anyone could do this business, right? That's why there's 90,000 of us, and of course we show up every day. So you were a star. You were on television. You were on the field. But that's not a bad thing. That you're very outgoing. And so how does that when you're meeting with people. I think that's probably an asset you have, is you're not afraid to talk to anybody. So, but tell us a little bit about that. What is it really like to be a Raider cheerleader? What was that really like? Because we see it on television and we go, oh, they're just doing their pom-pom thing and that's it. But what was it really like?
It was a lot of work. I don't think people, well, now they do because they have the shows on television and everything. But yeah, well, back in my day, there was zero pay, $25 a game. We practiced 3 times a week. We got on the scale for every practice. If you were a pound overweight, you did not cheer. We only had like 10 season games, I think.
That sounds like high school wrestling was. Get on the
Yeah,
scale.
we're spinning.
Okay, go throw up, because you gotta, it's, but now today,
Yeah, no, I don't think they're allowed to do that if they get paid more. Like, I just recently went to the Raiderettes locker room in Vegas, and unbelievable. They had pictures of each girl embedded in the wall, like it was part of the wall, their picture with their locker and their name, and it's just gotten, there was a really cool picture of Marilyn Monroe in a Raiderette outfit. That was really awesome, but.
was she really a Raiderette?
So,
Oh,
yeah, there was Elvis in the Raider uniform.
Maybe John Kennedy wanted her to wear a Raiderette outfit.
Yeah, just for fun.
Yeah.
Well, the Raiderettes were, they started in '62, and that's when I was born. So every time they have a monumental, what do you call it? Monumental time where they're going, oh, we've had Raiderettes for 50 years, 60 years. Well, that's how old I am. So we just celebrated a 60 year, and they really treated us right. We did the halftime show, and Sister Sledge sang, and we danced. All in unison, about 500 of us.
You don't dance.
No.
No. Tiffany had talked about, when we were talking about doing a podcast, she said, I want to talk about open houses, And I'm not sure what that meant, but did you know that back in the day, open houses used to last 12 hours? Can you imagine? I have a hard time sitting for 12 hours. 12 hours. So talk about open houses. Give us your 2 bits on open houses. Be nice.
Open houses are great as long as
You're busy.
you're busy, and home buyers or prospective home buyers just participate in the open house. Like, when I picture an open house, it's kind of similar if someone was, giving a dinner party. You invite some guests, and someone walks in and they pretty much say hi, and then they walk straight into the master bedroom. Now, is that the right etiquette? And so
what's their motive?
Right.
They watch the kitchen. Well,
it may be one person there. So, I think with open houses, for whatever reason, prospective home buyers have the wrong idea about their position in it. Open houses are being open, and held for a reason. We want to sell the home, and at the same time, if there's anyone that comes in unrepresented, or even if they are, we want to let your agent know, hey, thanks for sending your your clients over to us. But sometimes it's like buyers are like secret agents. They in the world of new home sales, we used to call them door huggers, because they walked in the door and they tried to stay as close to the wall so that they could walk into the models. They didn't want to say hi. They didn't want to say. They didn't want to sign in, and the funny thing is if someone wanted to rent an apartment, they'd have to show their driver's license and all these credentials. And so when you walk into an open house, keep in mind we could be asking for things like that. It's actually dangerous, to do, because anyone's coming in. We're not checking or anything. So the least that we ask is to have a conversation of why you're really there. Like, is there someone in your family that's looking, and you thought about it, or you were just in the neighborhood, you've been thinking about selling? Just don't be afraid to have a conversation.
Well, another thing to remember, it is an invitation. They have been invited, either via publicly, posting the times, or sending out a mailer, or whatever that is. We're inviting them into this open house. And so, when people are a little indignant about us asking questions, it's like, well, we can't say that because we're representing the seller, but I'd like to say, get out of here, because we're not here to accost you. We're here to help you, actually. It doesn't matter if you have an agent or not. We're here to share information about that house and the community. And we put in our time, and guess what? When we clock out, which we don't ever do, we don't get a paycheck. So it's not like we've got we're here to be trusted advisors. I think if buyers, even looky-loos, would look at it that way, look how much you can learn if you were positive in an open house versus, secret agent. Right? I don't nothing. I know nothing. Don't talk to me.
Well, I always ask them, do you want me to show you the house, or do you want to just walk around on your own? And I give them the listing sheet so they have all the details. And because a lot of them are uncomfortable, they think we're going to do the pressure sale thing, or, and you just have to read people, that's all, and respect the people that are represented, which I always do, and I'm sure you do, because main point is we want to sell the house.
Well, and we just went through an experience of, you've got an hour and a half to see the house, and then you have to make an offer, and then it's kind of like ask questions later. And I think that is contrary to what our roles are in marketing a property. Our job is to make it available to as many possible people and answer as many possible questions so we get educated buyers, and we don't worry people don't get buyer's remorse because they feel like they didn't get to do some due diligence and didn't get their questions answered. So I think open house was a good topic, Tiffany, actually. Did you know that eagles may symbolize freedom from monthly payments? Have you ever heard that?
No, not at all.
Why do you think that might be?
I know you don't drink.
I don't drink. Because that would be something a drinker might ask. Well, if you go on the Google machine, you can find all sorts of cool stuff. There are many ways that homeowners use to celebrate the full payment of their mortgage, including housewarming, explained in a different number. But one of the most popular ones, and deeply American, stand up, say pledge, was to put a cast iron eagle on the outside of their house, which was a symbol of that they had paid off their mortgage.
Like a victory.
Yeah, like a victory. Today we would probably want to do that because then we would see the title thieves that were supposed to buy the stuff that we see on late night TV to protect us from stealing our title. But I think that's interesting. I might, if I ever pay off a mortgage, I might get an eagle. So I'm trying to think of where we want to go next on this. When you see people now and they're asking about the market, what's the number one thing you guys hear?
That it's interest rates.
Yeah.
That it's not a good time to buy. Or they want to wait until things go down.
Timing of the market. I want to time things perfectly.
And how do we do that? We're
Well,
not
exactly.
genies.
We are not genies, and we are not
Crystal ball holders.
yeah, we're not Karnak from Carson. But see, you understood that. And she doesn't look like she
laughed.
It just sounded funny.
Yeah, I was going to say, she gives me a lot of courtesy laughs, too.
Yeah, the quiet one, as she said. I'm the quiet one. So, we talked about that. We talked about that in our last podcast with Mohameda and Sabrina, how, history is our best foreteller of the marketplace. And so, we've talked about this in our meetings so much about what is our answer to people. And when we look at how prices have gone from, 10% over list to, average list to sell price now is 97% or 96.5%. That 3.5%, all of a sudden, what does that do for you? That buys your rate down. It does many things. And as we say, marry the property date to rate. And, I think that educating the public on this is probably one of the most opportunistic times to buy real estate. We see some of the iBuyers literally advertising they're dumping their inventory, and many people have gained a lot of wealth in the last 3 years, and they may want to capitalize on it. And so how you do that with a part-time agent or someone who just really sits behind a desk, I don't know. It takes wisdom and guidance, and and foresight to guide people. I know you guys love to guide people. It's not just onto the field, but guide them on to, to their next house. So what do you see for the rest of the year, Nadine? What do you see happening? Are you going on another trip?
Well,
because already been on like several trips.
Palm Springs this weekend.
Oh.
Now that you mention
Are you going with Patrick? Because that's where he goes.
No, I have a regret function. We have a few reunions a year. Your question was, where do I see it going?
Yeah, where do you see it?
I don't,
What's your gut
this
say?
market, this is my first, well, maybe my second winter here. And I feel like it's very different than what I'm used to in Chicago. Chicago, it's spring, people are buying to get their kids to school and the school district. But here, we've got a lot of snowbirds, so I would imagine it's going to get busier.
License plates are changing.
California.
Well, I've seen a few Arkansas and
Oh,
Alabama.
wow.
And I'm like, really? Arkansas? I just, it was, I don't want to stare. I've got cousins that live there.
On one hand, but when we want to go, they go, oh, how's the water, da-da-da-da. And on one hand, I want to go, oh, it's horrible, because I don't want a lot of people here.
Where are you from?
But yeah.
Yeah, we ain't got any
We
water.
don't want-
Sorry, yeah, sorry, go back.
Well, I mean, I know that we're secure. I mean,
We
we
are.
get the information all the time about that, and it's just, it's like fake news, right?
There's plenty of fake news. So you sidestepped the question, did you know that? You
Did
just
I?
went right
Well,
around
you
it.
asked me what I see.
What do you
I
see?
it's gonna be busy.
Good. That is great. And Tiffany, what do you see?
Well, we are going to grow a little bit closer to more of a balanced market.
Yeah.
That's what I see. And so here's the thing. One of the reasons why I moved from California is to get away from traffic. However, you people in the north and east and south and everywhere, you want to come to Arizona. So I'm seeing more traffic as we gear up for Super Bowl. More people are thinking, oh, maybe I should get some investment property here in Arizona, which is great. So, I mean, I just see it getting busier and busier.
I hope we don't stop like we
Did you know that DPS, Department of Public Safety, for those in other places, is cracking down on those that are lane parkers? So those that drive slow in the fast lane. So Minnesota, Iowa, I know there's a few other places where
Wisconsin.
it's like, what are you doing? Get out of the way!
Right.
But they're going to crack down on that because the left lane is for those passing and driving quickly. The other lane to the right is for everyone who wants to drive less than the speed limit. And so I'm thankful for that. I think they finally realized someone's got to do something about that.
Do you think they're going to bring back the speed cameras? Because for Super Bowl, was it 2015?
Mm-hmm.
On the highway, like you were driving and there's like a camera.
Well,
So-
and I don't know because they had ruled that there was something unconstitutional about that. And I have mixed feelings. When I get my picture taken, I think they're horrible. When I see them work slow traffic, I think they're great. So who knows? But
Just drive with the visor down.
that's right.
I look like a dude. They took my picture once. and I was
Looks like a lady.
I was like, it looks like a guy. It's not me.
So then you go, that ain't me.
And they believe me.
Did they? Believe me, it's not me. Exactly.
It did. I look like a little boy.
So we talked a little bit about, I'm going to just touch on the Crumford Report, which is our gold standard of real estate information here in the Valley. And, one thing that we continue to see is, we talked, Tiffany mentioned about the balancing of the market. And, is 6 months ago, they said first-time home buyers were done. Never gonna be able to buy a house. It's over. And right now, the softest part of the market is 500,000 and under. And so nothing is ever forever. It's funny how they say that. And up in Minnesota, I remember we had a drought year in the 80s, and they said Lake Minnetonka will never be the same. And the next year, we were 10 inches over flood stage, and it's like, so ignore the man behind the curtain. But there is so much opportunity for first-time buyers to get into a house now, because that's where the negotiations happen. It's the highest level of inventory right now as a percentage, and the most movement in pricing. So call one of these ladies and they'll help you get a house. Have a great lender who can help you come up with a plan. Finance isn't go online, click the lowest rate and hope. It's having a strategy, especially now. What am I doing now? What am I going to do in 6 months so I can get a lower rate? What am I doing in a year to get a lower rate? Because you're going to buy this house at a great price. What are you laughing at? Jasmine is laughing.
You're doing some hand movements, and every time you do it, you'd shake Dean's head.
Oh, sorry, Dean. Dean's like, yes, I agree, Jay.
Just like.
Poor Dean. This is Dean.
I just don't know why people don't want to get pre-qualified. It's like, you know how much you can spend, you know where you're going to be. I always tell people, don't be house poor. Whatever you can afford, just think of the worst case scenario, can you still afford it?
Pre-qualify is not get you the highest amount, borrow the most money. It's to give you that range, and so you know what. So if I only want to spend $2,000 a month, okay, but what does that qualify you for? You need to know what that translates into buying power. And you're right, everyone goes, oh, I don't want to do that.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's a few steps, it's a pre-qual, it's not a commitment.
Right.
So it's got to be much easier.
And the other thing I think people don't realize here, other parts of the country, you can get the kind of, the bank printed me a letter that says I'm pre-qualified. Mm-hmm. Well, here, because of all the things that have gone on in Arizona in the last 2 decades, we need someone who actually says, you really do qualify, and we've checked some boxes, and that's actually part of our contract. So if you don't have a pre-qual and you submit an offer, you have an incomplete offer, and people just don't understand that. It isn't someone wants to go dig up stuff on you. All you got to do is go online or call a lender. You can even do it verbally, and they will do a pre-qual. But without that, in our industry, that's like us becoming tour guides, because
Absolutely, yeah, because I know, when you first get in the industry and people, friends are like, oh, I want to buy a house, but it's the first indication to an agent if you're serious or not, because it comes with the territory, like Jay said, it's a part of the contract, but if you're not willing to, to go through those steps to do that, we are just doing it for free because the buyer is not the one that's paying the agent, it's actually the seller from their proceeds. So you're really, we're taking a huge chance on, and you really should thank your agents if in the past you've worked with someone and they haven't required you to, to show, without showing pre-qualification. So it's something that's really going to help you out. You're going to specifically know the ballpark of where you should be looking in terms of house price. So it's just something you're going to need to do it anyway. Whether you're a year away, 2 years away, 6 months, you should get it done as soon as you can.
Well, that's the best point, because I know one of the lenders we work with, they have a huge credit repair program that they don't charge for their clients. And so, yeah, I'm 6 months out. Well, you might be further than 6 months out if you really don't understand what you need to repair. And if you do, then you can come up with a game plan and might be able to buy something sooner. Be prepared when that time comes around.
Yeah, no surprises. I want to say another thing too, because I've had friends with me.
See, they don't want to talk.
No, this is huge, because I've had 2 friends that did not use me. You know why? They thought that I was going to know their finances.
Yeah,
we don't know
nothing.
any of that, and they just don't get it. They're just like, all I want to know is that you can qualify for the price range that we're looking at.
Finances is highly confidential, and I always go, I don't want to know, don't send me anything, I don't care, as long as I know that lender is credible,
Exactly.
and they say you can get the money, then let's go do it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Exactly.
well, I think it's time to wrap up. Oh gosh, Jasmine is giving us the hook. If we appreciate that you're listening to us. Follow us on your favorite podcast channel. We're on all of them, more than I know. Like, subscribe, comment, anything else we can do? No? Share. We like that, share. And just a reminder, this podcast is sponsored by lawyer's title. And upcoming guest, I got to mention, we're having the Tina Tambour, a legend in real estate information, coming up. Thanks again for listening. The good, the bad,